Yeah, I actually I've wanted to go to the Azores for a long time. I actually felt quite ignorant when I arrived when I realized how spectacular it was. These huge, volcanoes that erupt out the ocean and then surrounded by so much amazing marine life. I was like, hang on, why haven't I been here already? Like, this is incredible. And it's on Europe's doorstep. It's the Hawaii of Europe. And so, yeah, I sort of arrived and was like, I'm really happy to be here, but really annoyed I haven't been here. I haven't spent more time here. This is amazing. Yeah, a lot happens. I mean, one of the key things we wanted to do is, I feel like generally people are quite familiar with dolphins. They're in our pop culture, and I think when you think of a dolphin, you think of sort of a smiley, happy, athletic animal that jumps out of the water. They're quite smart. They live in families, and that's basically it. And I don't think predator is something that's often associated with them. And that's not to say we wanted to, make
yeah, of course.
But that sociality, that group living, that intelligence. The reason that they're so smart and live in these big families is partly because they need to be very smart to round up their food, and they are involved on a daily basis in these sort of epic, as you say, blockbuster sort of Hollywood car chases, dolphin chases, and the scale of which was truly mind blowing. I mean, racing along in a boat at 30 miles an hour, desperately trying to keep up with hundreds, if not thousands, of dolphins. 3 different species of dolphins working together with tens of thousands of birds over top, and then the intelligence of these dolphins to work together to round up their food that then benefits so many other animals. The birds that rain down from the surface, sharks, really lazy whales that wait for the dolphins to round up all their food and then just pile in and go, bam.
They're the smartest, yes.
Oh, yeah. Work smarter, not harder, yeah. I think just the scale of life was really mind-blowing. And that's what I hope people, come away with. Yeah, I mean... couple things. Working at sea is difficult because of boat logistics. You're so at the mercy of the weather. You not only need to make sure that you can operate safely at that moment, but for the next 4 hours, because you might need that journey time to race back to safe harbor. So you've got that, and then also, the obvious thing is we humans, we can't breathe underwater. And so whether that means free diving or with the most of the action we were using scuba diving gear, we have to be in and out of the water so fast to keep up with the action, and that all comes down to preparation. Scuba diving, I think lots of people are familiar with it. They might do it on a holiday or whatever. You think the amount of kind of preparation and checks and things that you go through to make sure you're doing it safely. All of that stuff needs to be so second nature for us. It needs to be like walking, because, and using the camera, to be honest, underwater, that needs to be second nature as well. All of our focus needs to be on interpreting what the animals are going to do next, and the use of the camera and the scuba diving equipment and getting in and out of the boat. That just needs to happen, because there is so much going on underwater. Just big animals flying everywhere. You really need to have your head on a swivel.
Can I ask you, this is just a curiosity of mine, but how much the drones technology helped you, in the storytelling? Because my impression was that it was necessary in this case, because it shows you, all the fish, the dolphins, all the formation. So I want to ask you how much the drones helped you in the last projects of yours.
Yeah, from cinematically, especially in the ocean, they're so great at giving you a sense of place and scale, especially when there's huge numbers of animals. You can also, they can fly very fast. So, they're good for keeping up with the action and trying to help the viewer feel like they're on this adventure. I love the shots of us ripping along in the boat really, really fast, and all the
Yeah.
birds and the dolphins charging with us. There's no other way of getting that than with a drone. But I mean, on a sort of practical wildlife finding level, when you're at sea, you only have an idea of what's going on underwater from the odd dorsal fin from the dolphins and what the birds are doing. Whereas with the drone, you can get up and look down. So it's really useful for trying to figure out. Never mind the filming. It's really useful trying to figure out where we should get in, but where we should focus on.
Of course. I always love that in your documentaries you always talk with people, of the places. And speaking about the whale hunter, I want to ask you how much, according to you, the culture is shifting, like we are more kind towards nature and animals. So I want to ask you something about this, your opinion, based on the people you met.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, like a really great part about my job is that, as well as getting to hang out with cool animals, I get to hang out with cool people. And I think it's a really important part because, looking after the environment and nature is not really about wildlife. It's about people doing the thing.
Yes.
And I think it was a really important story to tell, whaling in the Azores, because it happened as, people were killing whales in the Azores into the late 1980s. Like, that's very recent.
Yes.
And what is really why we wanted to show that is because it's not to wag a finger and say, look at this very bad thing that everyone did. It's that's what they did culturally. It was a crucial part of their livelihood, but it was to show that the change that they made themselves. And Danielle, the whale hunter turned whale watcher, he's very honest in that he says, the reason that I changed is not because I felt that I was doing something bad. It was part of my livelihood. I changed because the whales were worth more alive than dead. And now, he has a different appreciation for the whales. He calls them his girls, his daughters, which I love. But yeah, it shows that, a community, that has such a deep-rooted tie to a certain activity, a thing, can change for the benefit of both nature and people. And I think that's the really key thing is showing that, looking after the natural world isn't just something we should do because, it makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. Yeah. Although that's a good reason to do it because, but because it doesn't just benefit wildlife. Looking after nature benefits people. We need a healthy world, a healthy ocean.